Greetings survivors and friends, SHADOWFRAX here with both a roundup of the latest Stay Alert patch, what just happened, and a look ahead to what's happening in the next couple of months' updates, plus more Twitch drops and a new weapon, which you may have already kind of seen, along with an update on what exactly has happened to modular weapons. But first, as shown last week, the star of this month's patch is the new tin can alarm, which is a poor primitive peasant's laser detector and can be deployed virtually anywhere, and which I think will be especially useful for securing monuments and set up ambushes. But let me know if you've got good use out of one yet. For a full breakdown, please check out last week's vid, but one thing to note is that now the sound has been updated from the placeholder bicycle bell to a clatter of cans. As mentioned previously, even though it uses tuna cans to craft, it would make sense, maybe, to have an explosive bean can version, and I believe the idea has been bandied about at FacePunch, but no solid decision has been made as far as I know, and they may have just kicked the can further down the road. Cue plugins, I guess. As if being sneaky hadn't just got harder, moving around in bushes will now make sounds that are audible to players around you, and the magnitude of the rustle will depend on the force of your hustle. Creeping is of course much quieter than galloping straight through foliage, and as a byproduct, the flapping of air balloon tarps will now be audible in the same way as they use the same system. There were a few other changes this month, and a lot of quality of life stuff. Things dropped in water will now be floaty and waft realistically into the depths with bubbles instead of just plummeting like a millstone. There's also a new splash effect when they hit the water, and there have been a bunch of zipline improvements, summarised as follows. Ziplines will now pick the furthest possible destination instead of the closest. Their max length has been increased from 150 to 185 metres and will now terminate higher up on platforms where possible to reduce the amount of climbing. And most importantly, you can now no longer get dismounted by trees when on a zipline. Despite all efforts to stop them spawning in the wrong places, sometimes life finds a way. So now branches will no longer leave you in the lurch. More stuff, including news of a new weapon next and when that new rat town is coming. But first, talking of radioactive places, this week's sponsor, Starcraft X, is a huge open-world MMO FPS set in the oh-so-sexy Chernobyl exclusion zone, and it's just had some huge updates. Not only is there the same freedom to choose how you'll play in this desolate world, be it an artifact hunter, explorer, or a mutant hunter to name a few, but now there's an all-new large-scale storyline, pitting faction against faction in a fragile balance for survival, with a bunch of new freshly designed locations for PvP clan wars and zone conquests. There's a new loot spawn system for the resource goblins amongst you, and personal shelters for players to rest, craft vital stuff like ammo and medkits, and customise with a whole IKEA's worth of furniture and decor items. Not only but also, Starcraft X has just received a huge new graphics update, taking its visual fidelity to a whole new level, with new lighting and weather systems, plus a brand new character animation engine to make everyone move and groove in a more realistic and fluid way, not to mention parkour. And where would a game be in 2024 without some good old-fashioned AI? Now your interactions with NPCs in the world will become more meaningful as they start to adapt and learn new skills such as hiding behind cover and jumping off high obstacles. Also, by using code SHADOWFRAX24 in-game, both new players and those who haven't logged in for a while can get all these amazing bonuses for a quick start. So what are you waiting for? Back to the video, and in other changes in this week's patch, NPC vendor prices now operate in real time rather than based on in-game time. This should be more understandable and will work correctly on servers that manipulate in-game time. Also, price changes now take place every 5 real-time hours. Last month, the prices changed every 15 minutes in real time by default, so this slows things down a bit. The travelling vendor has had a speed increase with a new convar for server owners to adjust this, shown here. Its lights now come on at night and stay off during the day, and it will now detect and repel players on its bonnet correctly, preventing an endless AFK zone. Trains will now break barricades deployed too close to the tracks, and you should now be able to deploy barricades around caves properly. Bikes will turn faster if you hold the crouch key. There's been a tweak to sidecar physics to make them better, and you can now ride bikes and snowmobiles onto the cargo containers so that they can be moved onto the cargo ship, because, of course, I'm sure you'd want to do that a lot. And the potential for putting bikes in scrappies is being looked into. Not only, but also horses can now enter terrain holes, which means train tunnels, the launch site ramp, and caves, etc, etc. Basically anywhere you're able to travel underneath terrain. Switching gunfire mode now plays a sound. Storage adapters don't have collision, so they won't get in the way of anything. There's an option to turn off blood on screen when getting hurt. The elevator max floor limit has been doubled. The last entered code for locks is now saved between sessions, and getting on top of water junk piles doesn't kick you for fly hack anymore. Praise be. And as mentioned last week, there's a new Shockbite tool cupboard skin earned for using the renter server link in the main menu, and there are more Twitch drops incoming between the 8th and 18th of August. The home brewed selection will be dropping, and here they are for you to see. Now, looking ahead at what's coming up next, and here's one for the builders. Flavian is working on a visualization to highlight which block is the culprit when unable to place a block for whatever reason. This is part of a body of work to improve the building errors system, and you should expect this next month. I'm told next week the team are going to be doing another hack week, so expect some hopefully interesting news to come out of that. But on a partially related note, there have been some changes to what's coming in September and October's patches, and please note, as always, this is subject to change. So don't get too excited or disappointed, please. September was meant to be a big update with a lot of changes to island generation coming in, but this has now been pushed back to October as it needs to cook a bit longer. You can't rush these things, you know. But here are some things I know are planned for September. Wallpaper is one. So finally we'll be able to customize the insides of our bases, as that's something some of us have to look at most of the time. Talking of time, a new IO entity, a digital clock, is being worked on for next month, which will show server time and allow for setting of alarms. And there's going to be an attire protection buff pass, which will be aimed at increasing TTK. More on this and whatever else is due for September when I get it. October now looks like it'll be the heftiest month of the year, and here are some of the things I know will be making it in then, as far as I know at the moment, subject to change, etc, etc. There's a blunderbuss skin for the double barrel, the SKS skin, which we now know is actually a skin and not a new weapon, boo. A new Frontierman hazmat skin, and a Frontier hatchet. Expect these all to be DLC, I guess. And as mentioned last week, there's a brand new weapon, a high caliber revolver. There will be a water well update with a new food cache which will be found there, the return of legacy wood piles, new temperate biome cliffs, a new unique environment apparently, not sure what this is yet, some more unique rock formations, better rivers, and of course the new Radtown Redux Monument. In the ocean there will be new stuff too, with underwater dive sites, an ocean wreck buoy, and the DPV will finally be splashing down, plus of course the usual seasonal content. Other stuff being worked on with no set date yet, as far as I know, includes work on the player rig and animal ragdolls. There's the rock paper scissors game, shields, and jungle ruins with crocodiles, snakes, tigers, and panthers. Oh my. But what I wanted to talk about now is this commit regarding a tier 1 SMG, and I checked into this to make sure I read that right. Yes, this is actually a new weapon, and the thing is, you've possibly already seen it, or at least bits of it. Let me explain. So, you may remember from way back in 2019 when horse armor was just being added, this concept for modular weapons, with the idea hopefully being pretty self-explanatory. And I know there was some excitement about this, and I've been asked multiple times over the years about what's happening with it, which leads me to this commit. You see, I'm told this new weapon is going to be based on the modular weapons assets that never made it in, and will instead be a finished, non-modular weapon in its own right. Which raises the question, well, what about modular weapons? Have they been shelved? And I don't know how to tell you this, but yes. Sorry. I truly am sorry. The problem was mainly one of balance, so I'm told. So we're not going to be getting modular weapons after all. Unless that becomes subject to change as well one day, of course, but we do get a tier 1 SMG. So, yeah. Pour out your grief regarding this development down below in the comments, please. And be kind. I am only a poor messenger. Well, that's it for this week, and you are now up to date. But please leave a like and tell me your deepest thoughts down below. Feel free to join me elsewhere, such as Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Discord, and my Steam group. Links are below. You can support this channel here with YouTube memberships and Patreon too. I shall catch you all soon, but in the meantime, keep calm and stay rusty. Cheerio. Life, finds a way.